Greetings, fellow carriers of wisdom. Welcome to Owl Basket. I'm Geralf, and this is Vajandil. And today we're going to be talking about Beneath a Steel Sky.
A game that I once saw my brother played through many years ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah. It was one of those games that came with the computer magazine subscription. It was nice. It has many other demonstration discs.
Okay, so
Demo.
was it like just a demo version of the game, or was it the full game?
It was a full game.
Okay,
We got
that's
through
nice.
it all the way through.
But yeah, so it's a point-and-click game based on the dystopian future. And, well, point-and-click games are pretty much dead today. I'd like to say that that's sad, but at the same time, I guess there's a reason why they're dead. I don't really know what the reason is, but there's something wrong with the point-and-click genre that it's just not sustainable, it seems. So obviously it's an older game. I can't really remember the actual release year, but it's an older game, and we just played it recently. But it's a game that you've already seen or played in your
In my youth.
in your youth. Yeah.
Yeah, my brother played it when it came in a PC magazine, in a demo disc that had many freeware or shareware programs, and apparently this one game was a full version of the game. It wasn't a demo. How do you spell it? Demo.
Demo. Yeah.
It wasn't a demo of the game. It was the full game, and it had something to do with maybe it had become freeware at some point. I get this little inkling behind my back of my brain that I stumbled upon this fact when we were playing the game.
So do you remember how hard was it back then? Because I guess you were pretty young. You finished the game. Did you have to look at any walkthroughs?
My brother finished the game, and walkthroughs were something they never occurred to us until in our later age. So no, it was all trial and error, I think. I
Yeah.
remember, like any point and click game, you get stuck somewhere always, and it was definitely the case all those years ago too. But it was just a matter of trying everything on everything, and it turned out nicely in the end. And I distinctly remember the ending, and when you were playing it, I just remembered how it's gonna end, and I was really interested to hear or see your reaction to what is revealed when you get deeper into the city's undergrounds and how the city operates.
Yeah.
And the last bit I remember very clearly from all those years ago. And I could have told you how to do it, but I abstained from telling you. Wanted to see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that's always a good thing. So, of course, we're not going to reveal any spoilers about the game just in case you want to play it. But because I asked about the whether you used walkthroughs and whether you have any trouble, because to me this felt like, well, obviously we played a lot of point-and-click games in our days, so we sort of have some semblance of how to do these things. But at the same time, this felt like a game where I don't think we used a walkthrough this time either, and it didn't feel like we needed. We got a little bit stuck at a couple of points, but for the most part, it didn't feel like a game where you would really need
Yeah,
any sort of guide.
true. I think you noted that specifically, that it's kind of an anti-point and click game in that sense, that it was a kind of a big tradition to have some very convoluted solutions to your puzzles in point and click games, and this one felt it really tried to be a logical.
Yeah.
Still a bit wacky, but at least somewhat logical and didn't rely on puns or any convoluted solutions
Yeah.
to get further in the game.
Yeah, because that's actually like, as we mentioned, or as Vandil mentioned, a lot of point-and-click games used to be pretty convoluted, and it was really, in many cases, just trial and error, trying out every item with every another item. And in this game, like, because you're sort of in that mindset that you have no idea what works with anything. But in this game, it was very often like, you know, we have that small robot thing with us. Couldn't I just tell him to solve this problem for us? And you try and it works. And you're like, oh, okay, what? Hey, is this a cheat code? What's happening? It's not supposed to be this easy. And in many cases it is. And that was really refreshing, I think.
I remember at the start, in the starting area, there was this one item or one place we got stuck for a while, and the solution was to just realize that there's on the foreground there's all kinds of garbage or robot parts, and you had to put your mouse on a specific spot, and that was a specific item that what you could pick up.
Right.
And I think there was some other areas around it that you can click and the character just says something about it, and then you
some generic.
okay, I already checked that, so I don't have to check it anymore.
Yeah.
But then there's that one little thing you have to realize that's different from the rest.
Yeah.
But we found it out.
Yeah. I mean, I already said that we didn't get stuck all that many times, but we did get indeed stuck at the very start, like in the first 5 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, but you could say that was kind of the tutorial phase of the game,
more or
where
less.
that taught you that you have to be very careful and look through everything in your screen.
Yeah, hover your mouse over everything. And I don't think it was that bad at any other point of the game. It was just that, you know, almost second or third screen in the game that you have to look at this massive pile of stuff that seems that it's all the same, but there is one specific spot that's different.
One thing I actually realized right about now, that there was... Is it normal in point-and-click games in the older days that you have to backtrack a lot to your previous places? Because this game, at least the... how would you say, the early middle part of the game or the late beginning parts of the game, you feel like there's a lot of stuff you can't do at all until you've gone 2 levels down. I might remember wrongly, but I think there was quite a lot of these spots where you already can go there, but then you just need some item that you will get later on. But this is just, I started rambling now,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm thinking this too deeply.
I do remember that we did a lot of, I don't really know if backtracking is the right word, but we did go like there's like several levels of the city. Like we did go like sort of all the way down and then come back all the way up to like see if there's anything new there, and
Yeah,
go
I
all
was
the way
referring
down.
to you need to go back to previous places
Yeah.
to progress in the game.
Yeah, I do think there was some of those, and I don't know how usual it is, but of course I do remember like in every other point-and-click game like Monkey Islands and basically in any other like point-and-click game you do have to like run around a lot.
Okay, that's just something that really stuck to my head a little bit somehow in this game, and I don't know really know why, but
Yeah.
maybe there was just one point where I really felt like we really need to progress already at this point, but the actual solution was to progress downward with the elevator and go find stuff there before you could do that one specific thing that I
Yeah.
don't remember distinctly.
So actually, that's one of the things that if you think about, say, Monkey Island games, and I guess like Space Quests and Police Quest and Leisure Suit Larry and everything, those games always like they're not. You're in a one area, and then you do stuff there, and you sort of the story advances, and you go into another area. But that wasn't really the case in this game. It's like you have the whole map available to you at all times.
It was kind of an open world of point-and-click games.
Yeah. So you can always go back into the areas where you've already been. It never like shuts down that, okay, you're now in a completely different place.
Yeah. It's probably because I saw this game as a child that I have very strong memories or feelings about this game in regards of the world and how it's pretty grim if you start thinking about it. This metal city with very tall buildings. And I think the idea was that the higher up or the higher you are in the society, the lower down that you actually get to live in the. So the scum of the civilization are living on the topmost parts of those metal buildings, and the lower you go, you will find richer and more.
Well-off people.
Yeah, and that's very interesting from a world building point of view, and I really would have thought that this is based on a book or a comic book, and I'm not sure if it is at all, or some tabletop RPG or something. We really have to check, but it's one of those fantasy or worlds that you really want to see a movie or TV show about, or at least a comic.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the game, I really had so many questions how the people live there and how each buildings might differ from each other. Are they some kind of mini nations on their own, or are they other these steel cities in the? And this was based in Australia, wasn't it? Australia's desert.
Oh.
Because the story starts with the intro where the main character is living outside of the city. He's kind of an exiled person with other exiles, and the father figure of his is Aboriginal. He's very black and white, very Aboriginal looking guy, and I think they somehow mention it somewhere, or I read it somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, it's based on Australian desert somewhere.
Yeah. And one thing I do remember, you mentioned comics. There is I don't remember if the game itself has an intro that looks like a comic. But at least I think the game came with...
the manual.
Yeah, the manual has a comic that basically shows you how the game starts.
Yeah. I really need to check the intro of the game, because I think there were still images or some panels taken from the comic and showed the main gist of the start.
Yeah, that's what I remember too.
And something I didn't realize as a child was the person who drew those images, who drew that comic. He's Dave Gibbons, who drew Watchmen. And he's very, very, very talented and appraised comic artist. We even saw him talking in the Harrogates, the Thought Bubble Festival.
Yeah.
He was on the panel. I got to see my hero.
Nice.
But that was something I didn't realize as a child, because I didn't know him or Watchmen at all. But after reading Watchmen and having this knowledge And seeing those comic pages, I was like, this looks like a Dave Gibbons art style. It really was. And that's very interesting how they got him. This little game studio gets this comic artist to do some artwork for them.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the manual itself has many mugshots of the people living in the city, and I think some of them are even people you won't even encounter.
Yeah, that was strange.
Yeah, it really feels like they had way more ideas they were going to probably put in the game.
Yeah. So
or the lore or the lore overall.
Yeah. So basically I think we avoided looking at the manual for any time of the game because I didn't want any spoilers or stuff like that. But when we did finish the game, we had a look at the manual, and there were all these people that you never meet in the game. It was very strange.
But it really fleshes out the world and makes you actually think that wow, I really want to see more of this world. And actually this game has kind of a sequel that has come out recently.
Yeah, at some point. I don't remember if there was even like 2 sequels, or I'll have to check it out.
I remember the Beyond the Steel Sky was its name.
It was like a 3D game, and I don't think it was even a point-and-click game anymore. It was something else probably. But yeah, we'll have to check the details.
So, but the game, it was pretty nice to play through because it wasn't too hard or didn't have any stupid puzzles that get on your way. But at the same time, even though the world itself is pretty interesting and there's very distinct characters in the game, but I really don't remember most of them anymore, or at least well, now I'm starting to get pictures when I start thinking, but it was somehow a little forgettable. It's not very remarkable is probably the word I'm trying to get at. But I don't know, this is a very weird game because it didn't conjure any strong emotions that, yeah, this is a nice game, but that may also be because I already experienced the game, and as a child I had all this wow, and how this world is so grim, like I already said earlier, that as a child it had a very big impact to experience the game, but as a now adult it somehow stuck with me all these years, and I remembered the ending, so maybe it was very good, at least the story part, and just because when you played it and I don't have any strong emotions from that time, it really doesn't mean it wasn't a good game or remarkable just because I already had experienced it.
Yeah.
And that's messing up my memories of the most recent playthrough of it.
For me, I think it was like I think there's a good balance theoretically in that if you're like a modern gamer, so to say, and you want to experience a point-and-click game that isn't too convoluted, then I think this is like a all right place to start.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like one thing I was sort of missing from the game, like okay, so I like to gush on this exploration and open worldness in games, and the fact that you shouldn't fast travel anywhere. But at the same time, in point-and-click games, when it's very much about you always have to find that one single solution, then I do like the fact that you can just, double-click and exit and your character sort of teleports there. You don't have to watch him walk all the way to that place and then go into it and then see the animation of them going there. But this game doesn't have that, so that's one of the sort of bad things that I was hoping maybe the game would have. But it wasn't that bad, and overall, yeah, the game is sort of easy and very logical, which I think in one way, like, yeah, if you, let's say you never played a point-and-click game and you just want to experience some and ask, you know, what would be a good place to start, and people will point at Monkey Island or some other famous game that is actually pretty convoluted and you're gonna get stuck and you're going to have to look at walkthroughs. I think this game is probably more suitable for if you just want to try out a point-and-click game.
Yeah, the old-timey point-and-click games, of course, because this Telltale was very prominent with their modern take on the point-and-click genre.
Yeah.
And they went dead and are alive again because someone, I think, bought them. But that's a story for another video.
Yeah. Overall, once again, I actually can't remember the ending of the game. Or I do remember. For me, it feels like I remember most of the game, but I can't remember the very, very ending. So in that sense, it's kind of hard to say if it left a lasting like impact on me, this game overall, or not, because it does feel like I remember most of the places in the game, and thinking about it, I think I remember most of the characters. Of course, I think it's probably... So you mentioned that the characters aren't all that memorable, and to me it feels like it's probably because if you look at, well, for example, Monkey Island, I think the character sprites are sort of bigger, and so there's a little bit more details on the characters' faces, and that's why it's easier to probably remember them. And of course, the characters are very like colorful and distinct and so on. So this game, I think the characters were more or less distinct, but once again, you can't necessarily see the details all that much. And there were some characters who may have been like back against you all the time. Basically, you only see their back, and you see them like trimming some bushes or doing whatever, cutting flowers. You may have never even see their face in there. So that's probably one of the things that makes those characters not so much, or not remember those characters, at least not what they look like all that well.
And I'm very bad at remembering characters, especially their names, so it's
Same.
not... It's just... I'm trying to think if this was somehow... Because, yeah, you interact with a lot of different characters. Maybe it's because those characters didn't really have... And I don't know if it was even necessary. It would be even necessary, but... No one really had any distinct personalities. I think they were more kind of a one note or this same tone characters. No one was very emotive with their hands, or everyone were just standing or being somewhere, and then you talk to them and then they talk back to you, and there wasn't that much difference in how they responded to your questions or anything.
Because what I do remember is that, I mean, the game is voice acted, and I do remember that the voices were very distinct. So you do remember those. But aside from that, yeah, the characters aren't like in Monkey Island. You have like, you know, doing this with his hands.
And I guess it might have been also on purpose, because the world itself is kind of a... Maybe term melancholy is pretty good with these melancholies about this, having the same emotion all the time and never straying from that emotion tone or that array of emotions, if I got the term correctly. But the world itself is kind of, or that this city is kind of people have just accepted they are living there. There are these hierarchies, and no one is complaining about their place. There is this one character there is this underground group who are trying to somehow break this city or the structures of this city from within. There's this woman who is kind of a revolutionary or anarchist.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but there's some kind of movement going behind the scenes against this style of living in this city of distinct levels of hierarchy or levels of class system.
Yeah, social class hierarchy.
But it really doesn't present itself that much in the world. The other characters aren't really complaining about their situation.
Yeah.
They're not very against it or for it. There are just the poorer or the bad people are on the top, and they are just living their lives there. And when you go down there, I was expecting, because the rich area that's on the ground level, I didn't remember that from the first playthrough all those years ago. So that's something I was expecting without previous knowledge or memories. And I was expecting it to be some kind of very snobbish or give me some reason to think that this rich part of the city somehow highlights the bad parts or the bad side of this city structure. And there really wasn't that much emphasis on why it's such a bad thing to have this city like it is.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, I guess it's sort of refreshing that the game doesn't really... I'd like to say it's a bit overused or common trope, pushing this, that, this system is bad into your face. And it feels like, for the most part, nobody did that. Everyone was just content with how they are or how things are. So in a sense, that was kind of refreshing. But
yeah, I agree with that, but because the world isn't, or this world we live in it isn't like that. Even if you lived in a utopia, there would always be people who would complain about that utopia. So it's probably more about the realism of the world that people are so accepting of this style of living. Maybe it's just the storyteller part of me that really wants to see more kind of a rift between these opinions, or this all the two sides of the spectrum not necessarily clash together, but I really would have appreciated it if this game also somehow pushed a little further those situations, those sad situations of the poor people and the luxurious situations of the... Yeah, but this is just... this is major nitpick territory, but I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
Would it have become a better game if it had put more effort in this, making it more of a living, make it more real for us by putting these extremes in forms of characters that are suffering from this and people who are really enjoying this, and their kind of not necessary interactions, but the in between the bad sides and the good sides of this kind of society, and it really didn't push it as much as I think it could have. This game.
I almost feel like the game was sort of hinting at that there's. I mean, I think it maybe made that on purpose that there's as like a greater threat in the game, or like something else that we should actually be, caring about. But yeah, for me, like it may have been like bad storytelling or whatever, but it also feels like it was, as I mentioned, kind of interesting and refreshing that the rich people aren't like, there's no like pushing stuff in your face that makes you really hate them or anything. It feels like, these are kind of people who are living like we are living as a middle class people.
Maybe that's why I'm really wishing to see more of this world, because there's so many stories to tell about, and I really understand that they had a limited budget and limited time to even make this game a reality. And it probably shows also, there's characters in the manual that you never meet, and so they made a very good game with their restrictions, and I appreciate that. But there's always this part who really could see it pushed further, and maybe they had these ideas of maybe bringing a couple of rich characters that have these more different sides to this, or different stance to living in this kind of city.
And it sort of feels like maybe that's what they were originally more or less going for, because when you read the manual and you look at the characters who were, I guess, supposed to be in the game, I mean, there was some character who was like wanted for stuff and so on. So it sort of, the descriptions about the characters sounds like that's supposed to be the story, that there's this group who tries to, break this system because they don't like it. And it sounds like there would have been more of that narrative, but in the end, for some reason, there wasn't. They decided to go a different way due to time constraints.
Yeah, but we're not. Yeah, we're going this direction because the game itself, it was a fine game. There's not that much to say about the gameplay or anything. You click stuff and you try stuff out, and solutions are usually very logical. But it looked also good, the game itself. It's pretty, no, not pretty good, it's very good. The visual storytelling is very good with the pixels they had.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, of course, it's not colorful like Monkey Island or King's Quest, but that's the whole point, because it's a dystopian future. And for that, it looked very nice. The voice acting was pretty good. I don't think, was there any jarring voice choices there or some bad acting? I think it depends on what you consider bad acting. Like, I've seen people criticize voice actors for a lot less. But the whole thing is that they were sort of voice acting caricatures, and you have to see them as such. If you try to see the characters as real human beings or anything more than just caricatures, then you're going to be disappointed with the voice acting, probably. But if you go in with that sort of mindset in mind, then, or if that's what you just want the characters to speak differently from each other, and you want one guy to look and sound like Popeye the Sailor Man, then you're going to like it.
That's another point of discussion, if a game is a good game, if it doesn't really raise that many talking points. It was fine, it was good.
Yeah, because as I said, it was sort of somewhat easy point-and-click game.
Yeah, and on the short side.
Yeah, I mean, point-and-click games usually are on the short side, but...
Yeah, when you know, because Monkey Islands, they get longer just because...
You have no idea what to do, and you're just trying everything with everything.
If it was as easy as playing this game through, then probably it's about the same length as Monkey Islands would be if you knew what to do.
Yeah. Actually, we played through all Monkey Islands how many years ago, I don't
It's
remember.
quite many, yeah.
Yeah, but those went by very fast because I, for the most part, knew everything what to do. And yeah, so I often talk about, or we had a whole discussion about, like open road and how you should avoid quest markers. And I like to point to people that I don't like using fast travel because I want to experience the world and the journey and everything in it. And like if you're using those tools, then you're taking away from all of that. You're taking away from the entire journey and the whole experience. But to me, it feels like in this game's case, it is sort of like so in a sense, this game was kind of forgettable because it didn't really. I mean, the whole reason why a lot of people remember Monkey Island and Space Quest and King's Quest isn't really, well, of course the great visuals and jokes and stuff are part of it, but at the same time, one of the things you really remember those is because you just go back and forth a million times places and you see those and you try to talk to those and you get frustrated. That's a big part of, remembering point and click games. And this game really doesn't have that because, well, it has that, but, in a much lesser way compared to a lot of other point and click games. So it's hard to say if that's a good or bad thing. Like in one case, you're not going to get all that frustrated with this game. And on the other hand, you're not going to remember all that much because you didn't get frustrated. So get this game if you can like keep that in your mind and think that that sounds like something that I want to see and play.
Yeah, it's a pleasant sit through game. You can play it in one sitting, kind of. Yes, if you put in you have a few hours in your evening and want to spend time with it.
Yeah,
maybe.
I do think it took several sittings. Still though.
Okay.
Yeah.
It somehow feels much shorter.
Yeah. I think
maybe it's part of that forgettableness that it somehow just went by so fast, or there's not that many places after all.
Yeah.
There's just so much going back and forth.
I'm pretty sure that we spent at least 3 evenings playing the game, but no more than that. So make that as you will. So what was enriching about this game? I guess the fact that it was refreshing. It felt different from other point-and-click games. And so the enriching part of this game is that it's refreshing and feels different from other point-and-click games.
Yeah,
that's what I think. That was our review of Beneath the Steel Sky. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.